this is what was happening before, and we were having a grand old time here. All of the children, as I said, were watching the teacher show, right? And I had one child who was engaging with me, so to speak. She was my assistant, I guess, and we were making snow. This was a whole different project. And then there was another, this one here, where the second grade had come in to read to us, and seemed like a perfectly normal class, except when I look at it now, I feel like I have to go out and get air. Very close, very cramped. And while Pax was speaking with me during our regular professional development times, she said to me, you know that book bin that you have in the middle of the room? And I said, yeah. She said, get rid of it. It's like, okay, that's nice to say, but then where do I put my books, okay? But after I thought about it a little bit, because, you know, the first response is never a good one. After I thought about it, I started remembering that these things that are in this classroom, they don't belong to me. Okay, they're part of DCPS, and I can trail them out into the hallway at any time, and they don't have to be in my room. So I started conceding a little bit more that these things could be moved, and they don't have to stay where they were last year. They don't have to stay in the room at all, because I never do put this classroom together the same way twice. But it was just easier and more beneficial for the children if we had more space where they were together. If you notice, there were 2 rows of children, which means that somebody's looking at somebody's back, and everybody's looking at me. So we wanted to make the space more positive, just like we were making the atmosphere more positive. So we moved the tables away from one another, and the carpet that was once this way, right here, and most of it was being covered by furniture, had moved now into the center of the room, and you can see where the children are now looking at each other. And I didn't put, I think in the other diagram, I have a place where I am. I used to be right here, me. And I don't have a place where I am now because I float more. And wherever I am in the carpet, I'm never there for very long. Before I had a chair. And the chair had, I don't know, chair on it or something, because we do teach kindergarten. And that's where my little chair was all the time. And now I don't use my little chair because I'm just everywhere. I would have to strap the chair on my back. So, next slide. Next slide, please. This is what happened as a result of the space opening, the language changing, and the children being allowed to create and involve themselves in their own learning. They're looking at each other. They are noticing things that they didn't notice before, and they were, I felt, in a warmer space, so that later on, when I would ask them, I guess it's not necessary for me to show you the book. When I would ask them things about stories that we had read, and they were answering, they would come right up around me, and everyone wasn't there, and everyone didn't need to be, because it was more like home. Those people who were part of what we were talking about at that time, and who wanted to be there and give their input and share, they were there. And those who wanted to read another book were doing that. And I can see in the next photo, that's what's happening here. I asked them about the story that we had read about the ant cities, and we had been studying ants for a little while. One of the children started this conversation. And I sat down on the carpet, and I was watching them reading to each other and talking. And one of the children said, "Look in the back of this book. It's showing you how to make an ant farm. Mrs. Wilkins, can we do this?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you need to do?" And that's what they're talking about here. They're giving me ideas as to how they can make their own ant farm. And, I mean, it doesn't get better than that. When all of them together gave me, not only affirmed each other's ideas, but felt good enough, felt safe enough to give ideas and have them fall on I'm sorry. but have them fall on ears that were more accepting. And that didn't happen before. They had to, in order to look at the speaker, which is what I was always telling them to do, they had to peer around because they were in a semicircle, a two-ringed semicircle. Okay. And now they could look at each other, they could listen to each other, and they could be close to each other, just like home. And our classroom feels more like an extension of what they have at home now. And instead of reiterating everything that I said at the beginning when they were giving me their answers, they now come up with some of the most, and I don't want to say inspired again because it seems like I'm a commercial for inspired teaching, but they're very motivating questions, and you can see that they're coming from their own thoughts. Do you have a list for me? This is what we hear now on a regular basis in my classroom. And I know that the check pays the mortgage, but you can't write a check for that. That's the best. I feel as though my classroom is more guided by the children. And if you wonder, did we hit the mark on thinking creatively and boldly and acting creatively, you can tell. We hit it and we went far above it, and that has not really too much to do with what I did, it was what I didn't do. Because our project was more about a change in us than it was in the children, and it opened up possibilities in their minds. And when I look toward next year, I have no clue what's going to happen, and it makes me feel great.